You're listening to All Things 3D, where we talk about the world of fabricating, designing, and capturing in the third dimension.
Whoa.
Whoa, here we go.
Looks like we're flying into some sort of point cloud system.
Yep, so we're flying into a point cloud right now, and here's the test-slated model. This model was captured using photogrammetry. It's a burial site in Jamestown. We recently released these findings to the public a few days ago. Here we have a close-up. We're panning through one of the burial sites. And again, this is photogrammetry capture and also laser capture combined.
So it is combined.
Right. Yep, so we've done some surphaser scans, a phase shift laser scanner. Here we're zooming into a silver box, and this is like a little reliquary that they discovered. And we had this box micro CT scanned, and we had to use a very powerful micro CT scanner from GE to penetrate the metal to look at what is inside the box. So here is the box after it's undergone its conservation treatment. You can see there was a little M that was sort of scribed on the box. They didn't want to open it for fear of damaging it, so that's why we went with CT scanning to uncover the interior contents. So if you go to
I'm sorry.
If you go to 3d.si.edu, you can actually view this box online using our WebGL 3D viewer, and also explore the interior contents as well.
No way.
Well, on that note, here's the blog that I was sent, and I think this probably will have a link to that.
You said it was, give us that link one more time.
Yeah, actually, it's in the YouTube video here, if I remember correctly. So, but yes, go ahead and say it again.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy URL. The main website is 3d.si.edu. And right now, on the banner of our webpage, it's a portal to all the Jamestown 3D.
Yeah, and if you actually go out to that YouTube video that I was just at, it has links to all of these as well. And here we go.
Wow.
So here we have the box. And then what's loading on screen right now is the overall dig site, and then we have the individual graves. So because of bandwidth limitations, we're limited to the resolution that we can deliver online. So we also make the data available for download. So
yes,
you can.
And I saw that you go to Browse Models, and then you get an option to, okay, so as it comes up, there you go.
Oh, and it kind of steers you, I noticed on the 3D thing that pops up. Wow, what a nice, that's pretty amazing. So you actually CT'd the inside. You were able to penetrate the metal with the CT scanner. That's
right, and our team mostly focuses on line of sight capture, so photogrammetry, laser scanning, structured light scanning. So we also have access to a medical CT scanner at the Natural History Museum, but we don't have a micro CT scanner. So we worked with GE with one of their industrial micro CT scanners to penetrate the metal to see what was inside the box. And we could see little fragments of bone and wood inside that box.
Well, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. We didn't even introduce you yet, Vince.
All right.
I'm really happy that you were able to make it on such quick notice. Actually, I had sent out an email a couple weeks ago when you had announced the Kickstarter for the Neil Armstrong spacesuit recovery, I guess is a good choice of words. And one of the things that I think that, what was it, 500,000 that was raised, will be used to do a lot of three-dimensional scanning, and that's why you're here. So maybe to talk a little bit about that and actually what you do there, because I know that you've added more and more models over the last year, and we have talked about you on previous shows. So please, Vince, without any further interruption on my part, tell us about yourself and what you do there.
Okay, well, great. It's great to be on the show. Thanks for having me. And what I do, I work for the Smithsonian, and I 3D scan Smithsonian objects and scientific research sites. We're a pretty small team. We're a 3-person team. And it's a really large institution. We have 19 museums, 9 research centers, 138 million objects. So one of our struggles is how does such a small team have an impact on an institution as large as the Smithsonian? So we focus on these pilot projects or these proof of concept projects like Neil Armstrong's spacesuit, where we're 3D scanning that suit to help support conservation and also public access. And the Jamestown project is also exciting because we're, again, supporting conservation, also research, and we're allowing people to view these archaeological sites online using our WebGL 3D viewer. And we're also allowing people to download it. So I should note that right now the WebGL 3D viewer is in beta. We built this in collaboration with Autodesk. So it's something we're still refining. This is sort of our first crack at 3D on the web for our team. But we think that Autodesk has done a really amazing job in helping us deliver this incredible content to the world.
Yeah, we've had them on several times. We're big fans, and actually we were invited to go out to the Real 2015 presentation or expo in San Francisco. Gosh, not too long ago, 4 or 5 months ago. I think it was in February, and probably will be back next year. So they're doing really a bang-up job in this area, and I'm glad to hear that they've been supporting you as well.
Yeah, so they've been really supportive, and one of our mission for the 3D viewer was, we're able to spin these objects around. That's something you're not able to do with a museum object, right? So there's value there, being able to turn this object around, zoom in. But then we're also able to get access to measurement tools. So we can measure this data, it's measurable data. But the most important thing for us is that at the Smithsonian, we're a research institution, and we have experts who have devoted their lives to these objects or these scientific research sites. So we have these amazing stories that go around these objects. So if you click on the little Earth button in the top left-hand corner, you're able to see the tour functionality.
Yeah, guided tour.
A couple of questions.
It's like having your own. It's like having your own Smithsonian tour guide right alongside you.
That's the idea, Chris. So we're really sort of we want these researchers to be able to tell their story in a really compelling way, using the 3D model as a scaffolding for these stories that they have. And right now we have Smithsonian researchers who are able to make these tours. Now, one of our dreams, we haven't done this yet, but we would love to be able to open up this tour creation to the world. So, a school kid in Wisconsin, instead of, writing a research paper, he's able to put together a 3D tour, and that's something that he turns in, in class. So connecting to schools, connecting to education is one of our biggest missions.
So I have a couple of technical questions, because
sure.
That's kind of the show a little bit. I noticed that when you've made these scans, and I'm familiar with this in some of my own work, you have some color calibration charts as well as some measurement tools. What is the purpose of this? I mean, it seems somewhat obvious, but if you wouldn't mind in your own words kind of identifying the purpose of these being included in the scans.
Sure. Well, for the photogrammetry capture, we're not capturing scale, right? So having the scale bars in the scene is really important. Otherwise, we're not able to take measurements. So those scale bars give us scale. They provide scale to the 3D model. The two color checker cards you see in the frame allow us to represent color as accurately as possible. Whenever we're taking photographs, in our case, we're using Canon cameras. There are a lot of things that happen with DSLR cameras in terms of optimizing color for like blue skies or for really beautiful looking punchy pictures focused around photography. For photogrammetric purposes, for photogrammetry purposes, and just being the Smithsonian, we're interested in representing reality as close as possible. So the color checker cards help us do that.
Pretty cool.
So what you're doing essentially is these colors, they go out, you set them there, and you know what color pink is on your computer, and so you can match your color on your computer to that card, so you can calibrate the colors of your photogrammetry in the field.
That's one thing you could do, yes. But for us, it's really about correcting the color for the raw data, and then that raw data, which is just the images, not the 3D model, that is what gets archived. Because photogrammetry algorithms, we've seen them improve drastically over the past 10 years, and we have really compelling examples one of which was in Tanzania. We were scanning one of the earliest known human footprint sites. And we did that about 7 years ago, and we got really amazing data. At the time, it was photogrammetry to point cloud capture, but of course now we're seeing products like Agisoft and also Memento, which is in labs for Autodesk, where you can go right from images to actually the polygon model.
Awesome. And I did notice these kind of funny shapes. If we could maybe pull that up, pull up an image just to. I noticed on this bar for the scale bar, you called it, that they kind of have these funny shapes. What's that all about?
The fact that they don't look perfectly flat, is that what you're seeing?
No, there's like a series of dots, and is this a specialized? Is it specific to photogrammetry? Is this just something that you found that works for scaling?
Those are scale bars that I believe it's the Bureau of Land Management who has done a lot of work with photogrammetry, long-range photogrammetry. So Google search BLM 3D. They do some really amazing work. So their scale bars allow for some auto registration features. We're actually not making use of those parts of the scale bars for this project, but that's the idea of those little features that you're seeing on the scale bar. So if you're interested in learning more, again, Google Bureau of Land Management, and they've done a lot of work with AtomTech, which is a photogrammetry software that was originally designed for the mining industry in Australia, and I think they're also doing a lot of Agisoft work as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the insight on the on kind of some of the steps that you do to capture these beautiful images. The people that want to go and check it out, again, that website for the Smithsonian X3D, which is in beta apparently, and it's a really great project. Mike had mentioned they actually have a Neil Armstrong spacesuit up on Kickstarter right now that has been fully funded, right?
It's been fully funded, and right now we're working on stretch goals, which would involve scanning 3 more spacesuits.
Wow.
Very cool.
Yeah. And so you can check that website out at 3d.si.edu, and we'll put that link in the show notes below. And definitely thank you for coming on the program.
All right. Well, Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Vince. Really appreciate it. Very cool. And again, on such short notice. I like all the stuff behind you, too. It kind of looks my office. I would feel right at home.
You can see it's really tight here. Yeah.
It looks like a little large closet. Okay, well, again, thank you. All right, well, let's move right into the news items. And, Chris, you've got something for us, right?
The news items. All right. Well, let me get back to that. Yeah, so we'll run through real quick here since I know we have 2 more guests that we can't wait to get to here and talk about some projects. First news item, though, of the day, since this is Week in Review of all things 3D, comes to us from 3dprint.com, and it's talking about Beam's CLAD 3D printing technology that was just kind of unveiled. It is a metal 3D printing, a new sintering process that I have not yet seen. It's kind of I want to say a mix between EBM and sintering and FDM kind of. I mean, it is a fused deposition model process mixed with the sintering process. You can find out about it over at 3dprint.com. You can go down here below to the video. There's actually a really interesting video that kind of shows the process here. So at face value, it kind of looks similar to some of the welding technologies. They call this the CLAD process. So there's obviously a 3D render of the process here, showing off the Easy CLAD system that Beam has come up with. So B Additive Manufacturing. So here's a real video of it going, and then here's another 3D render of the process here, showing the head. And at first it's like, what is all these nozzles? So it shows the inside of the nozzle here, and they call it the CLAD nozzle. So it's injecting a powder into 2 little slots around the side. So it's a metal powder, and then it uses the laser beam to sinter the metal as it's being deposited So kind of an interesting process. Haven't yet seen that, and it's apparently an R&D project managed by the University of Strasbourg and this company Beam. So we can be looking forward to seeing some of these machines. And the other great part is or what they're claiming is it's on the tip of a 5-axis CNC machine. So
Yeah,
you can kind of accomplish some unique part geometries without having to use support material. So here's also a render. It's not a real one, but you could also amend parts. So parts that have been damaged, you could mill them and put them into the machine, and with CNC accuracy, either repair them or amend them in some way. So here's a tailpipe, some examples. Pretty neat technology. Thought that was newsworthy.
Any prices on this?
I haven't seen that. I think they're still in the R&D phase. It seems like I don't think they've gotten to the market research phase. They're probably doing market research to find pricing on it now, and they're probably trying to do the tool up and all the cost estimating, which is the other fun side of business.
Well, on to my next item, and this is kind of interesting that you brought it up, because it seems like the industry is kind of indicating that something like this needs to happen. Stratasys just released their second quarter earnings statement, and it wasn't up very much, and a lot of people had projected that it'd be a lot higher, so they've kind of taken a dump in the stock market. The sad thing is it kind of has, as you'll see in the Fools post that I'll show next, 3D Systems also kind of had a depressed review in their stocks as well. And if you go through the article, and there's many of them out there right now, obviously a lot of pundits are indicating that the consumer market isn't where it's supposed to be. This isn't really the products that are going to save the world, as been indicated in the past. But Kristen, we've been talking about this for some time, and I guess we knew that. It's the sad thing. Media gets a hold of something, it goes sky high, and then it stabilizes. So I would just look at it that we're back where they were.
It's almost laughable to hear these analysts. I mean, like analysts have ever predicted any future ever. The technology that's being spawned right now from the adoption of additive manufacturing is moving the world forward. We're seeing amazing technology come down the pipeline at way faster rates now, and it's more accessible to everyone. And but when they try to pile it in like a Dow Industrial Average or something, when they try to just pile it all in and take some reading of the market, like the stock price of Stratasys some way correlates to the health of the additive manufacturing industry, it's almost laughable. So I don't think that this is any indication of what's going on. If anything, I mean, I've seen my whole everything about additive in our community has just been soaring, surging, and it doesn't look like it's going to ever let up. So.
No, obviously. Yeah. Well, let me go ahead and finish.
Yeah.
So, again, earnings come out, and in fact, if you remember, if you've been watching it, Apple even took a big hit, even though they've had some interesting results as well. So, I think it's unfortunate, and then obviously the scares come, and that actually helps move the situation even more. But I think it's kind of funny that this particular article from Motley Fool indicates that 3D System also affected the the stock market, or shares for 3D Systems. They went down as well. And I think 3D Systems, because of their technology, has actually been showing a positive. If you remember, 2 quarters ago, they were also in that kind of situation where they didn't think that they were going to move forward. They made some acquisitions that have actually helped them, but they've all seemed to stabilize. So, we have a stable market. We don't show the potential growth that we were talking about a year ago, but it's still stable and it's still growing. Maybe not just as fast. So, yeah, I think it's a scare.
A lot of it has to do with the more competitive companies like Lulzbot.
Yeah, that was another point, is that we do have a lot of these independents coming in, creating some really reliable small printers at less cost, and that's probably affecting their market as well. So you're not going to be selling the big machines if you don't need them. You know, the other thing that I've mentioned to Motley Fool is that the medical industry, you know, this has been a boon for them to be able to create, obviously from CT and MRI, which I just did a tutorial, what was it, Monday, on that whole subject, is really pushed the additive market as well. Okay, well, let's get off of that. As mentioned, I wanted to bring in somebody else at 10:30, and he's here waiting. So we're going to skip the scanner dark layer and go right into our VR corner in a round room. And with that note, let's see. I believe we have David Smith with us. Is that correct? And he's waving. He's been muted. Chris, if you want to unmute him so that he
I'm
can join
trying
us.
here. I'm trying. I don't
Let's
see
see.
the.
Hang on. I can do it. Poor guy. Okay.
There we are.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So hi, David. You know,
Hey.
I think we met
Welcome to the
briefly
program.
at AWE, and so I thought maybe having you on would be great. I've got a little video to show that I'm going to pop up real quick.
Awesome.
Wait. And I think this really, in my view, accentuates the importance of your lens system.
Looks like a flat screen TV. Oh.
If you haven't figured it out, what we're trying to do is demonstrate freeform based upon How's that?
There we go.
So what I was saying is that they were showing the different field of views for different presentation media in the past, and what Wearility.
Yep.
Wearility.
Like reality, but wear it.
Wearility.
I love it. That's a great name too. So
Okay.
this is your.
Well,
so David, this is your product.
Yes, it is. I came up with this.
That's awesome.
I spent last 5 years at Lockheed Martin, and our goal was to build the best head mount display for a number of things. One was flight simulation, because we make real high-end domes for flight sims, and other kind of training applications. But basically, they hired me specifically to build this, and I think we did a really great job. It really helps a lot that you have some of the best optics people on the planet to help you. I mean, I came up with the original idea, but turning it into reality was quite a challenge. In fact, first of all, people believing that would work, and then actually figuring out how to manufacture it, because it's a very, very different kind of lens. But we were very, it actually was far better than we thought it would be. It really worked out well.
now, the term that I've heard mentioned with this lens is that it's a Fresnel type lens. And obviously, if you look at it, it seems to be the case.
Yep.
What else can you tell us about it that makes it unique? Because that's been around for some time. What are you doing that's a little different in that perspective? If you don't mind giving a little bit of the trade.
Oh, absolutely. It's actually near the patent's almost granted, but I have one here, and you can actually see kind of close up. I'll throw something in there to show it, but
here, let me bring your screen up here.
Yeah. So, can anybody see that?
Yeah.
So what you're looking at is a curved Fresnel. That's what's really interesting about it.
Oh, okay.
And there's two lenses in the same, so on the front and the back. And so what you're really getting is, first of all, the lens goes around your eye, as opposed to other lenses that sort of stick into your eye.
Okay.
That's one of the key things. That's one of the reasons you get such a wide field of view. In fact, this is a small version. We have an industrial strength version that we did for Lockheed, which is even wider, but we realized that we get such a great experience with a phone that it made sense. Let's just give that see what we could do with that, and it really worked out spectacularly well. Let me show you. It's odd, but I don't know if you can see this. Literally, just how crazy the field of view is off of a phone.
So what are we talking about numerically, your
Wow.
field of view?
This guy has essentially a potential field of view of 150 degrees, depends on lots of factors. One is where your eye is. One is the size of the phone you use. If you use a smaller phone, it's narrower, and the bigger phone, it's wider. Um, but what's neat about it, I mean, that was one of the things is it curves around your eye. The other thing is it's in focus everywhere. So no matter where you look inside this, I should have left that app running, but it's actually in focus no matter where you look. And it's got a very, very large exit pupil. It's like almost an inch wide. Exit pupil is like when you look at binoculars, you know how you have to get your eye just the right place to see it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really sweet spot. Our sweet spot's huge. So basically, you don't. What that means is you don't have to adjust the lenses left and right or in and out. It just works. And the final thing is a collimated image. And what that means is basically, if I hold it like this and pull it into my eyes, the image I see is like it's at a great distance, and so it doesn't like change size, apparent size, no matter where it is moving in and out. So
Okay.
it's got all these very, very nice properties. I mean, basically, this is the best lens in the world for VR, but there's a reason for that. It was designed for VR. I mean, this is, we kind of went to first principles, and since we had, I'm not kidding, we have the best optics people at Lockheed Martin in the world for some obvious reasons, I guess, and it was like literally designed to be as good as we could possibly make it. And when we first did it, each of these lenses, there's 4 lenses in each device, was $350, and so it was this was a $1,400 device, and we got the price down like over 2 orders of magnitude on the lenses to make it affordable, which is kind of one of the reasons we decided to start the company. We thought we could take this to commercial space.
So I
So it
noticed that the
actually
lens
has-
has like a stepping in it, right?
Yeah, that's the Fresnel design. Basically, if you take well, Fresnel's the guy, by the way, who created the lenses for lighthouses. And if you were to take those lenses and treat them as one big lens, it'd be like a foot thick. I mean, it's literally impossible to build. First of all, they'd never cure on the inside, and also it's way too much to like get it up into the lighthouse. So he came up with the idea that since light only bends when it sort of hits the interface between different media, so like it bends when it goes from air to glass, but then it goes straight in the glass, and then it bends again when it hits glass to air. So what that means then is the important thing about a lens isn't how thick it is. It's what the curvature of that lens is and the material it's made out of. So what a Fresnel lens is basically taking that lens, this curved lens that you have, and slicing it, and then pushing out all the parts between that curved part and the bottom, and so you get this sort of serrated surface. And that's what you're seeing with those rings there. But the trick is the rings for us are so close to your eye you can't see them.
Ah.
It's sort of like you can't see your fingerprints. And think of it that way. It's like your fingerprints are very fine elements in your finger. Well, these are the same way. It's like a fingerprint, so it's literally invisible once you get it close enough. You can see it.
Yeah, and that was my experience when I tried them on there. Now, the other thing that people have been concerned with Fresnel lenses, and obviously I pronounced it incorrectly earlier. I guess it's better to actually hear somebody say it before trying it yourself. But essentially, there's been issues with chromatic aberration.
Actually, they have the least amount of chromatic aberration. They have other issues. Chromatic aberration is caused basically when light goes through the surface, when it hits the surface, it's bent different depending on what color it is.
On the wavelength, yes.
That's right. And so what happens then is it bends again on the outside. So if it's that dark side of the moon cover, so you see it hitting a prism and it bends out. the trick is the amount of time you're inside the lens, like a traditional lens, the more the light spreads before it comes out the other side. Fresnel lenses are really, really thin. You can't tell with this one because you're seeing two of them, but imagine each one's about 1/4 of the width of this, all right? And so what happens then is, what happens then is the light is literally doesn't have enough time inside the lens to split. And so we actually have the least amount of chromatic aberration of any other lens. There is a problem, though, which is the Fresnel lenses, the Fresnels themselves, the little prisms, actually have a sort of like a standing wave problem at the edges, because that's more, you can actually see the edges a little bit. And since we have two of them, they actually create this kind of almost a sine wave effect, and so you see like kind of a little darker and a little lighter. That's where that, if you look at, and it's pretty far out, it's like out here, you'll see a little bit of a ring outside. We actually have a way we think of eliminating that, but that'll probably be next year before we do that. The other thing that they're sensitive to is light overhead. I mean, I think you could probably see kind of light from different areas that are being reflected by those edges there of the Fresnel, and so they're slightly more sensitive to that, but not that much more actually. If you took a regular lens and put it and did this kind of design, you'd probably have that problem. It's sort of an interesting trade-off because we wanted an open and portable design. Note you can fold it up like that, which is really, we thought, important because we think of VR, something you can take with you anywhere you go. It's the same size as your phone, fits in your pocket. We thought that was a huge, huge value for people, and so this design was really based around that. And of course, you know, we are working on ways to minimize the sort of the external light pollution, so to speak. So you'll probably see a variant of this or some additional capability with this, like a cover or a sock around it that makes it a lot cleaner. But we do like this. I mean, it's basically, this is the best lenses in the world in a device that fits in your pocket.
Wow, you sound like such an expert. I just wonder, where did you learn all this lens stuff?
But I built my first head mount about 35 years ago, doing eye-hand coordination with a robot. I've been doing 3D for that long. I wrote the first real-time 3D adventure game called The Colony in 1987. It was on the Mac, later on the PC. I created a product called Vertus Walkthrough, first real-time 3D design tool for the PC in 1990. I co-founded Red Storm Entertainment with Tom Clancy, where I came up with the idea for Rainbow Six, which was a pretty big game. I've been working with Alan Kay for 20 years. Alan's the father of the personal computer. We built a system called Croquet, Open Croquet, which was a collaborative 3D system that actually a really great thing. It was open source, and we're still working on that. Actually, we sort of see virtual reality, virtual worlds as the next communication medium more than anything. I think of it in particular, augmented reality, which I consider VR to be a subset. Not everybody agrees with me about that. Is going to redefine the nature of how we communicate and collaborate. So we're pretty excited about that. And there's all the math. Actually, that's just the math field of view. The math of the lenses is a little more complicated.
Right. Well, this is a PDF that's on your website, so those of you who want to get a little more geeky, they can go ahead and move in that direction. Yeah. Other thing before we let you go, Chris,
over my head.
That we need to go talk about with you is cost. I know you just finished a Kickstarter. It was very successful. In fact, one of our other, what do you want to call it, part-time co-host, Brian, who's in New York, who for whatever reason couldn't make it today, has just received his pair, and he was really excited about it and sent an email out on that. But obviously, this is going to be available outside the Kickstarter, and what kind of price do you have with it? And I also know that you're working with other developers, including myself, about incorporating this lens system. So you're really being very open on who can use the lens. In fact, I've heard rumors that possibly Oculus might be involved with it.
I haven't heard that rumor.
Oh, well, I guess I better be quiet.
Well, maybe you know something I don't. We're being very aggressive. We think that the cost of VR is, when you're looking at hundreds or potentially thousands of dollars, is crazy. The market's just launching now. The only way we're ever going to have a significant impact is having the price of the initial device to be low enough and interesting enough for a large number of people to get hold of it, and that would then drive content developers to make stuff for it. So we sort of see it as really, really important to get as many of these out there as quickly as we can. So we're definitely way under $100 for this. We embrace the cardboard ecosystem. We love what Google's doing because we think that's a necessary aspect, having an open development platform that anybody can access, and further, anybody can deliver their apps without being in a closed garden is really kind of crucial for us to ever get this to take off. So we're big supporters of that. The other thing is
I
that
noticed that you had a QR code already. So one of the things that I found with Google, I'm also working from the development standpoint, is that if you do get certified, you're given a QR code, and that automatically aligns your Google Cardboard application to the lens system in place. So
yeah, the challenge actually, we actually still have we've developed many QR codes with Google so far. The problem we have is their lens model isn't wide enough to support our lenses. In fact, the very first when I started doing this with them, if I got above 110 degrees, the app that we were using that they created crashed. So we've been kind of trying to figure out how to get it wide enough and at the same time minimize distortion. We actually have a almost purely spherical image, and most lenses don't actually work that way. They have a very strange kind of end result. But because of what we're doing, you can't use a classical lens model for it to get a perfect image. So we're working with them, trying to figure out how we can have our lenses work better. They work great, by the way. If you saw our lens beside any other thing, we beat them completely. The trick is we know we can do a lot better, and so that's one of the things we want to continue pushing on. But on the other side, the Google Cardboard ecosystem is so great. They're now getting onto iOS, which is a really important platform for us. And I think a really important aspect of this, by the way, is that the phones are they're the next PC, right? A lot of people are saying, well, the high end is always going to be here. And I guess you could say that. It probably is. I mean, there's still high-end mini computers. There's still high-end mainframes. But they're not very relevant today. And if you look at where people are making investments, you're going to see
David,
it's PC. It's not on the low-end systems. So the phones are the future.
Right. Yeah. I think
sorry to cut you off on that.
No problem.
So we didn't get to the price on it. Obviously, what we'd like to do is bring you back on and do a longer interview because obviously you have a lot of information. So hopefully we can get you back on and do a much more in-depth interview with you. Plus, as you know, I contacted you from a developer's perspective because I'm also working on a headset and working within the scene kit of iOS. So I've got the ability to do whatever I want in there. So I'd really like to explore this depth of field that you have available to. So we'll talk more on that. We'll set up another time. So for our audience out there, if I wanted to buy one right now, what does it cost me?
Probably infinity. We're not selling them. We're fulfilling the Kickstarters right now. Okay. We're looking at November ship. We're looking at around $69.
Wow.
Okay. Very reasonable.
And in about November, you'll launch a store, I imagine, right at Wearility.com.
We're looking at. It's more likely it'll be sold through other distribution. We may sell ourselves, but it's easier just to point you to something like Amazon. So you can expect something like that. We're still figuring out exactly how we want to do that, but we have a lot of interest and a lot of demand. We probably will have like 500 left after the Kickstarter for this first these units. So we're figuring out if we should just give those away or maybe sell a few. We'll see. There will be some available. If we really like you, you can get it for free.
All right. Well, thanks so much, David. David
Thank
Smith
you.
from Wearility, and sharing all that info. Can't wait to have you back on the program.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I'm really excited with this, and I think there's a lot of potential here, and glad there's smart people like you that's moving this forward. We're really in a different time now with this VR than we were 10 years ago, as you're probably going to attest to, and cost and everything, and you're part of it. So thank you.
Well,
All right, let's move on to the next item, and let's stay in the VR corner. And we have a couple of other things that I wanted to bring up, and one of them is Nokia. You know, they're the guys that, and I have a little video that I want to show along with that, that I think. It's not very long, but essentially, Nokia, who's been obviously in the smartphone. Okay, we should be just me now, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. They're in the have been in the smartphone, but now they're moving into other areas, and they've come out with this little device here, or actually going to be coming out with it. And one of the things, if you remember about the Nokia phones when they were making Windows type phones, is that they had an excellent camera. So I have this strong feeling that they've taken that strength in their optics and created this thing. Now, from what I've seen in this Verge article, it's going to be in the 5-figure range, so it's not something probably I can afford any days. But hopefully they'll come out with a lower cost version. But they are working with the same company who did the, and let's see if I can see the name in here, but the same company who did the Paul McCartney 360
VR
demo that we've talked about before. Jaunt is the name, Jaunt VR. Did you already say that, Chris? Were you ahead of me on that?
No, it was the VR. I remember the VR. I remember we covered it on the. It was one of our openers. You brought it to.
I was in that world and not paying attention.
It was pretty amazing.
So what this will allow them to do, because it also includes the microphone component of it, is to do the same thing in a much smaller package. And if they're using the lenses, or not the lens, the optics that they built for these cameras, you know, we're looking at, I think it's like a 36 megapixel camera. It is, and with a wide dynamic range. So if that is the case, we're going to probably see some huge potential here with HDR, full 360, and when we say 360, we mean spherical, which you can look at your feet, up at the sky, all kinds of things. So I'm really excited about this, but again, in the 5-figure range, I don't think I can afford it any day, but we'll be able to see the results soon because Jaunt VR is going to be using this. And if you see, remember the little video I just showed a moment ago and that I blasted your ears out with, it looks like they're going to be using it in a live concert or even concert recordings, which will be very cool. Put it in there and never have to go to a concert again. You don't have to deal with the drunk guy next to you.
The traffic, the parking.
Or the aromas coming in that okay, well, in California I guess it's not an issue. all right, that's one item. Let's move on to the next item. What do we've got? One more. Oh, this is important. You know, we've talked about this, and HTC Vive is doing a world tour for their HTC Vive Steam VR. And if you remember, this is the headset. Should we say that it's in competition with Oculus? I guess that's close. But one of the things that they offer that's different is that you can put what do you want to call it, beacons or sensors in the room itself to provide a full room environment, kind of like something else called NeoDVR. I don't know, but essentially similar to that. But you'll hook it up to your desktop, which kind of limits you because but I guess they've got a fairly long umbilical cord. But it gives you more flexibility and mobility. And at GDC 2015, they kind of were the runaway hit. Well, they're going on tour with it, but the first thing is, notice the dates. They're kind of limited. There's like, what, 12, 13 of them, which isn't that many, and they're across the world, so a lot of people are complaining there's just not enough sites. They're not in Canada, so like everything, nobody's ever happy. So they are taking this, so if you're anywhere near any of these locations on these dates, you might be able to experience yourself. I have signed up as a developer for some time now. Haven't seen mine, Brown, but who am I? I'm just a little guy. But if you're if you're interested in it, head out to one of these locations. Obviously located in San Luis Obispo County on the central coast of California. I would not be one of those people. All right, and then one other item, which I'm just going to talk about briefly, is that GDC 2016 is going to be providing their own section on virtual reality now, so it's going to be kind of an adjunct. Since, as I just mentioned, the Steam was kind of the surprise hit there, they've kind of split it off, so next year, if you're a developer in VR, this might be the place to look and showing off your wear. GDC is in more than one location. But this is the San Francisco location. I think it's at the Metreon or the Convention Center, which I can't remember the name of, which they run every year. I've been there once as one of the sponsors. Expensive, but it was very interesting, so I may be looking at it again.
And I know I've said it before, and I'll say it again, the Metreon in San Francisco, my favorite IMAX that's out there. That place is absolutely amazing. If you are in San Francisco and you want to experience the real IMAX 3D, definitely make a visit to the Metreon. You will not be disappointed. It's a great theater.
Okay, well, let's move on to my next item and get right into the scanner darkly, since we kind of skipped it. I found these people once before, and then I'm going to be trying out their app and giving a review next week. But this is Scandy, and essentially it is an app that works with the occipital structure sensor, which will be a segue into my next item, that allows you to scan and then send it into their cloud, and then you have the option of getting it printed. So one of the things that I've talked to on several occasions, and I'm still showing Chris, so sorry about that, Chris, there we go, is, once you scan something, it's up to you to clean it up and make a 3D print of it. So obviously they're providing it. Now, one of the things that I noticed right away is that the scan definition and texture quality isn't really up to par, but I've invited them into the tutorial that I'm going to be doing an hour after our show here to kind of show how we can do this. And also they're interested in my lighting system to provide better lighting. So hats off to them. I'm going to be talking with them at more. They've done a few things that I'm interested in, so maybe we can share some technology together. So if you're looking at other apps for the occipital, they're there. And on that note, kind of a little sad note for me personally, plus a big happy note. As you know, I've been working with occipital over a year now. And this is Jeff here, the CEO of the company. They just had another infusion. I want to say 13, but I think they've actually got their full 15 million. And there's a couple of articles on this, but essentially they were able to infuse themselves with a little more money, like 14 to 15 million dollars more money. And if there's some other financial articles out there, they've actually done very well for themselves. From what I understand, essentially they file a Class B something or other, and then it's kind of open. One of the major backers for them was Intel, which is kind of interesting because they've had their own hardware that they've been kind of promoting in the last year, one of them being a device similar to the structure sensor. So maybe I need to talk to Jeff a little bit to find out what they're going to be doing with Intel. But hats off to them. Obviously, they're going to have more money to move forward with some of the things that we've been working on together, such as Neoti VR, the higher definition texture, and coming soon, even better mesh definition. So there's a lot going on. Obviously, they have some money to continue that, so I'm really looking forward to that. But on that note, I want to talk about Apple a little bit. Apple, I just found this in looking at something else. They've been pushing a lot of patents through lately, and this is another one that was just approved. Now, this is articles in 2014, but I thought it was important because if you remember last week, Chris, we talked about the little device called the bezel. Do you remember that? That attaches to your phone. And then I saw this, which essentially kind of talks about the same process, using a laser and using that to scan. So I sent this off to them, and hopefully,
It seems like Apple just goes out there on Kickstarter. They have like a clerk at Apple, and their whole job is to go onto Kickstarter in the morning and then file a patent in the afternoon.
Well, I'll give them credit. This was filed in 2014, so I don't think that's the case. But what I did notice is the people that authored this have nothing to do with computer vision. So it's just like they come up with an idea, they've got probably a great patent group together, and they can file this stuff. And I'm just worried that with what they purchased in some of these files, that this is going to start affecting people in the VR world and in the scanning world. Cross my fingers, but Apple has been known to do that before. So let's hope that they play well. But it was funny that this description of this particular patent kind of talks about how this laser is used actually out of the audio jack, and how it's used to position and get depth information. Kind of sounds familiar. But we'll talk about the bezel a little bit later on. I think it's a neat product, and we'll take a look at that. So that's about it for our VR Corner, and they're scanned. I'm going to take a break here and let Chris get into... Actually, James, you're out there. Hello, James. Hello?
We've got him on mute.
Oh, who muted him?
I think he came in muted.
Okay, I took him off. Okay, he's probably playing with it when I'm playing with it. So one of us needs to unmute him, or he doesn't need to talk today. He's taking his whole video offline. All right, Chris, why don't you talk about something, and then I'll get into...
Yeah, sure.
Actually, why don't you go ahead and talk about your 3D in medicine, because I know that you have one.
Well, my kid... Uh-oh. There's James.
Yeah, that was an announcement.
All right. Hey, sorry about that. My mic was unplugged. Go figure.
So I was going to say, you've got an item here on design and architecture, but Chris, if you're ready to go with your 3D in medicine, let's do that, and then we'll jump to James.
Yeah, and this is a pretty interesting one, and actually my screen's not quite working, so maybe you could pull this up for me, Mike.
I guess I could. Hang on a second. Which one is it?
This is, I just chatted it over to you.
Okay. It just disappeared. I'll go back into...
Let me see if I can. Yeah,
so you have a...
My Chrome is...
Okay, I got it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and this is coming via siliconrepublic.com. And it's under their innovation section, discovery innovation section. It's talking about this pen can 3D print cells onto injured body parts. Again, another auxiliary technology, something that people wrote off as maybe useless, worthless. When the 3D printing pen first came to market, a lot of people looked at it like, why would you want that? You've got a 3D printer. Why do you want a 3D printing pen? A lot of the products and stuff that people were making with the 3D pen were kind of lackluster. They've gone through a couple iterations. Obviously, that was a filament pen, but this is an auxiliary technology spinoff that's exactly proving my point, which is something that looks worthless, even like the food printers. At face value, yeah, they might not have a practical application today, but they spin off these beautiful technologies, and this is just one more example. This is a group of researchers in Australia working on a 3D printing pen that will allow surgeons to draw regenerative cells onto injured body parts. It's called the BioPen. And so what they can do is they can actually, it's kind of like a regular 3D printing pen, and there's also a video kind of down below that kind of shows the technology a little bit. And what you can do is you could load either stem cells or bone cells or whatever cells. You know, these guys know a lot more than I do, obviously, about this. But it's basically a 3D printing pen that will print the cells directly onto you know, the injured part of the body that needs to be repaired. So really interesting. Again, I am a big fan of just auxiliary technology. I think thinking outside the box, even if it's not practical, or even you know, you could never really use it in its current state. This kind of the 3D printing pen, I think, was a great idea from the very beginning. Even though I don't have one, I know you have one, Mike, but
I do, and I've actually used it several times for patching. So
yeah, so repairing a 3D print, it you know, even though in their Kickstarter videos or even in the videos online, most of the people using it don't show kind of like, they don't show that it's you know, a good way to patch your 3D prints. And actually, that's probably one of the things on my list that I should probably get to patch 3D prints. But I'm just a big fan of auxiliary technology, spin-off technology. This is just another beautiful example of it.
Excellent, excellent. I got kind of distracted there. I've got something to show a little bit later, but let's move right. Yeah, let's move right on into my next item, and I think this is pronounced, since I do such a poor job of it, Anata homage. I don't know, but essentially this is, yeah, there you go. This is a company, and the reason I know about them is when I was giving the presentation on 3D Slicer earlier in the week, somebody brought this up, and I think this is really neat. And let's see if we get a little more information on it. But essentially, it is if you can see it there, it is like a couple of LCD touchscreens that allow them to do a complete. I know you don't like this. It makes you uncomfortable. Look away, Chris. But essentially, it allows you to do kind of virtual dissections of the body without actually having a body there, and you can drag and drop, pinch and zoom to expand it. And here they show a visual being presented on a screen, but it's up here. So they've sold a lot of these to different rooms. I think they're like $50,000 a piece. But wouldn't this be cool? Yeah, I think there was a product, actually Microsoft is coming out with it. I think it's like 1015. Something similar to this, kind of a long screen with a touch capability. I don't remember the name of it, called the Microsoft Slate or something like that. But very similar, but obviously this is the size of an actual body. It looks like two different panels are put together. This has been available for a little while, but I thought it's in the news again. The reason I mentioned it is somebody sent something that at the San Jose Tech Museum. Have you ever been there, Chris?
The San Jose Tech Museum? I don't believe so.
No, I would like to get there. I've heard about it for some time. Well, they were doing something kind of in the maker environment, and there was a couple of guys there, one who saw this, and they actually were doing synthetic cadavers. If you remember, we had on the gentleman from Australia, speaking of Australia again, who had created, using CT scans, a lot of components that were very realistic of the human body. And obviously they seem to be bringing the stateside, and I think they're actually marketing it. So not only do they have the table, but they have very realistic 3D tangible or 3D printed tangible cadaver components. I don't know if it's an entire body, but I was mentioned that as well. So if you haven't heard of them, I think they're going to be in the news soon. The guy behind this did a TED Talk, so there's a TED video that I'll have a link in the show notes as well, and you can hear from him. But that about covers our medical. On that note, let's jump to James. He's got something that he put in the architecture group. And then we're going to bring on somebody that we've talked about before, because they've done something extremely, in my opinion, special and cool. And now he's muted right now, so if I really make a a mess of his name. He can't hear, or he can't say, he's unmuted. So I'll let you say it. Gillis? Gillis? Gillius?
Jill.
Gillis.
So
See?
Jill.
I knew I was going to mess it
Just
up.
Jill.
Jill, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jill,
Welcome to the program.
Yes.
We're going to talk about you in a little bit, but yes, thank you for coming on, and we really appreciate it. So, James, take it away.
Sure. My news article for this week for 3D design and architecture is the largest freeform 3D printer. Let me see if I can get the share screen to go. Hold on. Let's see, there you go. All right, you guys can see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so this kind of shows you in a little quick video of how they do it. I don't know if you can see it very well, but you can see them kind of stringing these kind of support structures along.
I love these things.
Yeah, this one's really interesting when we get to the actual thing that's making this. It's a large robot arm,
Oh,
man.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's not
I
small.
love those. What are not Festo? They're. I'm trying to remember the name of the big orange robots that are kind of like. I love those things. I want one of those so bad.
I think we all do.
I do work for a company, and I went down to their factory. It's in San Luis Obispo, and they've got one, and they use it for polishing. It picks up parts and then automatically polishes them. It's pretty fun. I love those things.
So I guess I'll play this video here. It kind of shows you the wall construction of how this all gets put in.
It's just a better way, right? I mean, that.
So I'll pause it here. So
Yeah.
what you have is you got the exterior here, and then you've got the foam that gets poured into the structure, and then I'm not sure how they do the middle part here.
It's probably just a plate, I would imagine.
Yeah, but after they print it in there, I mean, they'd have to print the plate in. It's kind of confusing on how they get that in there. But
Hey, James, move a little bit away from the microphone. There's a little bit of distortion.
Sure. Is this better?
A little closer. Sorry to hear.
All right. And then you've
got, so I guess instead of traditional rebar construction, right? This would kind of replace that, because with concrete structures, typically, to reinforce concrete, you have to use rebar, and that's all hand lathed. It's kind of a laborious process. It requires a lot of man hours to kind of lay the rebar. It's kind of somewhat specialized, the people that do it, and it takes a lot of time. This almost seems like it would be stronger than rebar because it's kind of got triangular cross sections. And I don't know, it just looks like a really interesting process. I really can't wait to see this in person. I wonder if they're doing demos of it anywhere.
Well, I think the more interconnections you have, the stronger the material comes, especially for concrete. So you have the concrete and then the interior, and then I'll come down to here, and you'll see what types of walls it can make. I mean, it's not
Look
just
at that thing.
typical.
What is that?
It's not straight up and down. They can make all sorts of different walls that you've never thought were imaginable with typical constructions. So.
Right, complex geometries you couldn't do with rebar. So you could do cement structures, and so what you could essentially do is you could have one of these arms laying down the inner structure, and then you could have another one that's printing the cement, right? Because we've seen these cement printers. So then you could do like really complex geometries. Wow.
Yeah, and you look at this, and I'm all for it, but they showed the simplified view of having that middle part and then having the foam on the outside, on the inside the concrete. Well, how would you do it on something like this? Maybe you can spackle it or hand do it or something like that.
No, I think what you do is you do it the same way as FDM with a dual nozzle. Is you do one layer, you do each material, you trade off one layer at a time. So you build one layer at a time, up. So you could you could get those underhangs, you know. So it's a Kukabot. That's the one that I was looking for, and
Yeah.
I guess they're green now. This one's green, not orange. But Kukabot is the robot arms that you see in the car factories spinning around Tesla cars, and unbelievable.
You know,
Yes.
you know what? I actually saw this arm when I was at Awe. In fact, if you go back through some of the video, so that's wow.
I want one. I don't know what I'd do with it, but I just want one.
How about, can you afford one?
Yeah.
Probably not, but I just want one just because, you know.
But I guess
too.
I guess from a practical standpoint, you know, this would have to be like a manufactured home or modular home where they would build this in a factory and then ship it out to site, because you can kind of see it. It's bolted to the floor, and it kind of seems like
it's an industrial grade robot.
Yeah, you can't get this out to a site or anything like that. So
not today, but you never know. Like I imagine that it's only a matter of time before this company actually has a modular system that's on a truck that goes out, auto levels automatically, and you know, you could have a system, you know, and you know, as time progresses, they'll probably bring down the weight and you know, have it auto level, kind of like what we're seeing in being implemented in even the consumer grade 3D printing market now. Is auto leveling is becoming a prevalent thing. So who knows?
No, and actually, the demo I saw, it was brought there, so it doesn't necessarily have to be on this rail system.
Wow, look at this thing go!
There was not a calibration system, so
can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, and give us a maybe the company website for those that are not watching this video. It's just blowing my mind right now.
Yeah, so exactly. So if you don't have video, where can we find this, James?
I guess the website's right here. It's at least for this article, is this 3dprint.com, and then it's got an article here. I don't know if we can do
technology.
Yeah, branch 3D printed walls.
Okay, and this will be in the show notes, both on YouTube as well as within the podcast on our website. So if you want to find out more information on that.
Awesome. Thanks so much, James. Good find.
Yeah, no problem. Excellent. All right, well, let's get right into our special guest. We saved the best for last. We've actually had him on previously, his material, and I'm actually going to fade to it and let it run some static shots that he sent exclusively to me. So you're seeing this for the very first time.
Beautiful.
These are some static shots that he sent me.
We watched this, didn't we? We watched part of it.
We watched a trailer, and so he sent me some static shots that I'm playing behind me of some things that will be in. Now, you told me it was a 3-minute animation short.
Yes, exactly.
So, which makes kind of sense if I'm going to do some behind the scenes once we're done with this. But it is a unique way, and I've seen other people using the technology, using 3D print presses to do stop motion, because then they can print out all the components and then switch them out. And playing just a little bit myself with stop motion, it is a very meticulous, time-consuming process. And yeah, you know, frankly, you have to be very anal to do this. So on that note, let's bring in Jill.
Yes,
and,
thank you.
Who's all the way from France to kind of talk about this, and I'll just let this play in the background. So kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and what motivated you to spend so much time doing stop motion.
So actually, I'm a CG artist. So I'm doing films for the industry.
Okay, so you use 3D visualization on a computer as well.
Yes, exactly. And I like to experiment mixing arts, like using the CG to making other art, like, I don't know, street art, 2D animation, painting animation. And let's back 4 years ago when I saw the 3D printer, and I was thinking it might be possible to do something with my skills and the 3D prints. So I began to study an idea and stuff like this. At the beginning, I just wanted to do like just a little test, maybe 10 or 15 seconds. But further I go into it, and further was like so beautiful. I'm sure I can do something amazing. So I started to do a chase me, and it take me 3 years to make it. From the
Okay,
beginning
well,
Unbelievable amount of work. Stop
all right,
motion
so let's.
films.
Yeah, and you sent me some behind the scenes, so I'm going to go ahead and cut to those and let those run one at a time. Now, behind me, and I'll jump to that screen, is a collection
Yeah.
of the parts that you have printed. Now, for our
Yeah.
audience, and we've talked about this before, you used a Form Labs, Form 1,
Yes.
what do you have? Form 1, and I think
Form
maybe
1
you're using a
Plus.
Form 1 Plus now,
Yes.
which is an SLA resin-based printer, which is not known for its speed. So for you to print all of these, how long did it
Yeah.
take you? And,
I print 2,500 prints for my 3 minute films, and it took me, I think, 10 months, day and night, 20 hours per day. Sometimes I have to wake up at night to launch another print to be in time for finish my movies. So it's kind
I
of
know a little bit about
quite amount
that.
of time.
Wow, well, that's incredible. And let me jump to your next slide here. So here are
Absolutely.
different versions of, I'm
Yes.
assuming, the protagonist. Now, I got the feeling that this is a little animation, kind of like along the Red Riding Hood little, what do you want to call it, nursery story. Is that correct? I don't
What do you
know.
mean by
Chase.
nursery stories?
Well, there's something called in our country Red Riding Hood. Have you heard of that? Where
No.
the girl goes
It's
through the forest.
it's one of the Grimm tales. It's a Grimm tale. It's the
Okay.
girl with the Red Riding Hood and the big bad wolf.
Okay, okay. I
Yeah.
see it. Okay.
I think it's the Grimm. I think it was it was one of the Grimm tales. It's an old story. It
Yes.
goes back a long time. I
Yeah.
think it's Norwegian or
So
something.
essentially, or German. Essentially, she goes through the forest. There's a wolf that
Yes.
follows her. So I don't know. The title "Chase Me" kind of infers to me, but I don't know.
Mm.
However, the protagonist here, and you have her in multiple sizes.
Yeah, maybe I was influenced by that because I wanted to I can say it to show magical forests untouched by human race, so beautiful and amazing. And I try to create a giant tree and a big forest, and maybe it's kind of the red the tale you told me about.
So this particular character that you have here is got some type of musical instrument.
Yes,
Do
a
you have a
ukulele.
musical background? A ukulele. So is she playing it within the animation as well?
I'm playing battery. Maybe it's this name in English. You know when dumb. I'm doing dumb bass. Dumb.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But I like music, so I wanted to have a story with how can I tell that a story with music that can bring my image. So this is why I chose ukulele player girl and making a story around that.
Okay. Well,
Wow.
behind me, you've got some of the sets that you created for this. Is that correct?
Yes,
Can you talk a little bit about that?
yes. I have created 12 sets. It was quite hard because all my sets are bigger than the Form 1 Plus, so I had to divide them in maybe 30, 40 parts and glue them and pen them. It was a huge task, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I bring with me little prints. This is an animated tree for the first shots, and I also painting some of my prints.
Oh, that's
Oh my
interesting.
God! Pull that up one more time. Let's
Yeah.
let's check that out.
Now, did you print that in color resin, or did you have to paint that afterwards?
No, I paint them. I have to paint 300 prints.
you're a glutton for punishment.
I
So
know.
let's
Seriously.
move on to another clip here. Again, is obviously because it's stop motion, you created
Yeah.
different versions of her at different, in this case, a walking gait. I'm
Yes.
assuming that you repeat it over and over again.
Yes, I print cycle animations for the girls because she's walking through the forest, so I didn't have to print all the time all the prints. Sometimes it wasn't the case because if she's climbing or stuff like this. But yes, this is a cycle animation of the walk, and you can see, no, you cannot see here, but I put numbers behind the skirts because if I have a 300, no, 100 prints for one shot, I have to be sure that I will replace the
Right
exact,
one.
yes.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, not only, I mean, it's enough work as it is to animate this on the computer, right? But then you went through the process of actually exporting each frame
Yes.
that you wanted as a 3D model that then had to be physically 3D printed on a Form 1 by one. And then stop motion animated
Yes.
back on the computer.
Just to
You are
prepare.
a glutton. You are a glutton for punishment.
So what do we have here? This looks like different elements of some of the tree
Yes.
components.
Yes, it's one of the sets. So I wanted to just show the different parts. I printed on the Form 1 Plus, and just after that, I have to take one by one and glue them by to have my tree and paint it in gray. And
Absolutely unbelievable.
just to come back what Chris told earlier, it took me maybe 20 minutes to just prepare the print, like to add supports and stuff like this, put numbers behind the skirt. And if you multiply it by 2,500, it's like 1 month of work just to prepare the prints.
Wow, this is really a passion. So here obviously is an assembled tree.
So
Yes,
how
exactly.
many people, Jill, let me ask you, how many people did you have helping you on this?
I was alone actually. I did it.
How many people? How about one person, Chris?
And then you have to set up the shot with the
Yes.
camera,
Yes.
record it, you know. I mean, this is like you took the hard route, you know. I mean, this is not an easy. There's
Well,
nothing easy
for
about this
sure,
at
yes.
all.
Well,
So
maybe
you
not.
thought about this in your brain, and you're like, "This is what I'm gonna do," and you just made your mind up, and you did it. That's great. I
How did
mean,
your Form 1 handle all this? Did it break?
Yes, at the first, yes, it broke like 5 or 6 times. But with the Form 1 Plus, it was like non-stop printing, day and night. It was really great.
well, this
But
is
So
like
let's talk.
but the first
Let's talk
version
a
was
little bit about.
what? What did you say?
Let's talk a little bit about Formlabs and all this. Obviously, if you had it break a few times, they were there for you and ensure that you were able to print this
Yes.
successfully. But I've heard through the grapevine here that you started out with a particular type of resin, and because they came aboard, you had to use exclusively their resin. Is this true? And was that
I use a three type of resin, a black one, a transparent because I have a waterfall, and gray resin. So this is
now, were
all,
these all from Formlabs, or did you use other resins available from other companies?
yes. I use another resin because it was really cheaper than the Form 1. So
maker
yes,
juice. And let me ask you, okay, so I wanna know a little bit about the process. Obviously, we definitely need to have you back on the program and have a genuine discussion about this whole process. But I want to know some of the tools that you use real quick. Like, so to animate, you probably used 3D Studio Max.
yes. My the same software but another companies. And I did a lot of ZBrush to add detail on the prints. For almost all my sets, go through ZBrush, and I use Mesh Pixel for repairing my parts, Netfab, and after it's all the compositing stuff like After Effects for adding effects, and speed grade for the colorimetries and stuff like this. It took me 4 months for the CG because it's kind of my domain, so I can be quicker, and the other 2 years for just printing and doing the stuff. My movies was ready in CG 2 years ago.
Wow. So are you going to release a
So-
CG version side by side?
I don't know. I don't know.
No, probably not.
I wouldn't. Well, let's talk about the release. Obviously, this has been in the works for some time. When will this actually be available in festivals, and when will be the first festival for this to be viewed at?
The first festival was in Annecy, in France. It's well-known festivals about animations, and the next one will be in August. Will be Rhode Island in America and SIGGRAPH. I will also
Okay,
do. I will also do a little making of, a little talk in SIGGRAPH about my shorts. So it will be great
And
too.
which SIGGRAPH will you be at? The one in LA or the one on the East
In
Coast?
LA, yes. Yes,
Okay.
in LA.
And what's the date for that?
For my talk or for the
For your talk at SIGGRAPH?
it's 13 afternoon for the talk.
13th of August?
Of August, yes, exactly.
Okay. So that's
So
not that's like 2 weeks from now.
Yes.
Very cool. So anybody in the LA area or is planning to go to SIGGRAPH, please look in on you. Now, will you be around the whole time if somebody wants to get a hold of you?
What? Sorry.
Well, I'm assuming you're going to actually be at SIGGRAPH, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you and talk to you in person, will that be available?
I will have an interview. I will have an interview from CG Societies. Is it what you're asking for, or?
I mean, are you going to be walking the floors yourself? I'm assuming being
Yes,
an
yes.
animator. Okay.
Yes, I will. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Through your website.
Yes, I have a website if they want to see some stuff, and there is my contact name inside. So my website is chaseme.com.
Okay.
If they want to see a little making of, and
ChaseMeFilm.com.
yeah, chasemefilm.com. Yes, sorry.
Okay. And I'll show the website again, but before we close, I'm going to go ahead and show again your little trailer.
Well, beautiful film. I hope Formlabs sponsors you at the very least.
They really helped me. They give me Form 1, they give me resin. They really helped me to make it, so it was really cool from them.
You're a talented man, Jill. Very talented man.
Thank you.
Wow,
So
look at
here
this.
it is, coming to life. All those little pieces that took 2 years of his life.
Jeez, unbelievable. I can't believe it. Well, thanks so much for being on the program, and we look forward to having you on again and hopefully catching up with you maybe at SIGGRAPH.
Yeah, maybe. Thank you.
All right.
Well, thank you. Okay, well, let's move on to our final items, and that's our projects, and I'll go through them very, very quickly. As you know, I've been talking about this little guy right here in the corner here. I'll jump to it, and that's the Ultimaker 2 Go for the last couple of weeks. Well, here's my conclusion. It's as great as the other Ultimakers, except it has no heated bed. And the thing is, heated beds, I think, are very useful, even with PLA. I found that if you don't calibrate the bed, meaning the spacing when you're printing, I found that the parts didn't stick. I'd come back a couple of minutes later and find them kind of James, you're familiar with this, a little spaghetti mess. I was printing out a little skull, And I haven't had that happen for a while now, and I think part of the reason for that is the critical nature of ensuring your bed is calibrated, and also having a heated bed, even with PLA. Chris has made some comments. He showed it to me earlier before the show, and maybe I'll have to get some material. Chris, if you want to enlighten us again, what is that material?
For which one?
Put on your bed.
Oh, to put on the bed, yeah. Well, obviously, being the little spot kind of supporter I am, I prefer this Lulzbot PEI sheet, which is only available at the moment for the Lulzbot Mini. They only have it in this size to buy directly from Lulzbot. You can buy PET, though, which is what I have on my Taz 5. PET works fairly well. I don't have really great luck with it with nylon, so I much prefer, if you're going to use nylon or some variation, I much prefer to use the PEI. It just seems to bond better to nylon and some of the specialty materials. I've just had much better luck with it. So, and you want to make sure, another big tip that I'll give you is definitely use the brim feature. With nylon or with parts that you're having a hard time to stick to the bed, the brim will actually seat down, and so any of the peeling that's going to happen is going to happen at the outer edges, and so what will happen is the brim will peel, or the brim will actually help it bond, either one, instead of your part actually peeling up. So definitely use a brim, and you can always trim that off. It's pretty easy. You just take either an X-Acto or some sort of straight razor and just peel that brim right off.
Yeah, actually I did that. The problem is, look, here's my little benchy boat.
Uh-oh.
The problem is the whole thing just lifted off the surface. So again, I'll have to look at the calibration. I was very quick in doing that. As mentioned, calibration is very important. But look, here's my little boat.
And cleanliness also is a big one. If you're having a hard time getting it to stick, especially on those initial layers, a lot of times just take that alcohol wipe and wipe that and do several passes with alcohol, making sure that your bed, whether it's glass or masking tape or whatever it is that you're using, make sure that it's nice and clean, free of dust particles, because any little or oil residue can definitely impede adhesion.
Print Whisperer, I've got a question for you.
Sure.
Okay, let me finish this up, James.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, the point is, on the Ultimaker to Go, the Ultimaker to Go is an excellent printer. You do have to spend some effort, like any 3D printer. I'm not a big fan of the Bowden extruder. I've said that before. I think in this case it's still underpowered. If you remember, Chris, we talked to a gentleman, what was he, from Norway, who's got an excellent extruder, which I'm going to be replacing this one. Remember, it actually has extruders on both sides to push the material through. I think in this case, Ultimaker should look at using it. I think in this that it's a little underpowered, especially when you're trying to push through 2.8 millimeter into a small nozzle that is incorporated on the Ultimaker. So I will be making that change to it and making sure that my bed's calibrated and taking some of the Print Whisperer's expert advice. One other item. I do have a tutorial going on at 12:30 today on BioStep Capture. If you're interested in 3D scanning and using the structure sensor, that is going on. So on that note, I will leave the rest of the show, except one item, the bevel, which I'll talk about, to the Print Whisperer. It's your show now, the Print Whisperer.
All right, go ahead, James.
All right, so the question for the Print Whisperer is I've gotten 2 nylon print sets of the same thing. First one I kind of mentioned to you off the air, kind of had hairs and a lot of oozing going on, and you had mentioned to kind of increase the retraction speed, and I went to look at that, and I also clicked coast to end, which is a feature of Simplified 3D, but I did both of those, and a lot less oozing happened. However, I changed the print temperature, I think from 250 to 230 Celsius, and it seems like the prints are more brittle. Like they didn't stick, the layers didn't stick to each other as much to make it brittle. Have you had any?
So you're talking about some delamination issues going on.
Yeah, can that be caused from not printing at a high enough temperature?
So I'll tell you another tip that you know, and I always use again, back to the Lulzbot. These guys are experts. They really do a lot of work. They put a lot of work into their print profiles, their printers. I actually talked to them about, they've got a future model coming out. It'll hopefully be out in the fall. They'll have maybe a new iteration of their TAS. But their print profiles, one of their big recommendations, and what I highly recommend for nylon, which does, yeah, you're right, has a tendency to ooze, and it can suffer from delamination issues, is slowing down your print to at least 50% of what you would print ABS or PLA at. So if you slow your print way, way down, it'll actually let the print. What happens is, when your print is going, when your printer, are you printing Bowden? Do you have a Bowden or a direct drive?
It's a direct
I have
drive.
the direct drive flash
Okay,
forge.
so either one really, even more so with a Bowden though, is when the material is getting fed through the nozzle really fast to keep up with the printer that is moving really fast, there's pressure building in the you know, in basically the hot zone of the nozzle. So it's really you know, increased a lot of the, you know, it has a lot of pressure if you're moving really fast. If you slow the printer down, the pressure is decreasing, and so you're going to experience less, kind of less of the strings coming out of the nozzle, kind of a lot less of the retraction issues or oozing issues that you'd have. So that might be another tip. Delamination, a lot of times for strength, you'd think that a smaller layer size would actually increase your part strength, you would think. I don't know, that's why intuition for me. But a lot of times, especially with nylon, I've heard, and I actually need to do more testing and kind of read, I think there's some conflicting points of view, but I know Talman 3D is the one that makes most of the nylons out there for 3D printing in the Americas at least. That's where I get my nylon. I get mine from Matter Hackers, who gets it from Talman3D.com. And they have a lot of interesting kind of discussion on it on their website. You can read kind of some of the technical stuff about strengthening your parts, but they suggest actually having a thicker layer size. So, you know, like a 0.5 millimeter layer size, which is pretty thick. Or so, you know, if you thicken your layer size, you might actually increase your part strength. You may also need to bump up the temperature a little bit. What are you printing your nylon at?
Well, I printed it per the TASBot recommended settings at 230, but I think it was, I think that's what caused it. But I was printing at 250, but that may have caused some other issues. So
it looks like nylon 618, it needs to be at about 245, and nylon 645 they say about 242, somewhere in there.
I'm printing the nylon bridge
material. Okay. And what are you printing that at?
I printed it at 230, so.
Okay, so you might want to bump that up just a little bit. I would imagine. I think it's probably nylon. It needs to be in about, if there's a sweet spot in there. And you probably just have to play around with the temperature, print some calibration cubes. That's what I've had to do. Definitely print a brim with nylon. Brims are gonna, because nylon is just like the king of warp. It's like polycarb. It just wants to warp no matter what around the edges. So obviously you've got the flash forge, which is already a step in the right direction because you've got that enclosed build envelope, but definitely want to make sure that you print a brim, because that'll help mitigate the first layers from peeling, and that'll help make the rest of your print run smooth. So
helps take it off too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So so my tip is slow the printer down.
Thank you.
Okay, you got one other thing to tell us about too, Mr. Print Whisper.
Yeah, and like maybe I'll have you bring this one up on the screen here.
Okay.
It's here in the link here. Yeah, because my Chrome doesn't want to pull it up. But this one comes from Talman 3D again, who I get my. I've been doing a little bit of work with the t-glase. T-glase is a product they have. It's really great for 3D printing. It's actually, they specially formulated it. Those guys at Talman, they really know what they're doing. They're really materials experts. And this article is on their website, and it's under their t-glase section. It's kind of buried, but it's called Hacking T-glase to look more like glass. And here you can see an example of a cup that they printed, showing with batteries in it, just showing how to go from translucent to clear. And what they recommend doing, and down in their article here, is actually getting some of that XTC 3D coating from Reynolds AM, which is all over the US. They've got US distribution. And XTC 3D, it's a cheap product. It's a two-part. It's got a little pot life, so you just mix what you need and you brush it onto your 3D prints. I've had some customers that use it and they love it. I've had other customers that use it and they don't. So depending on the application, it sounds like t-glase is kind of the real stuff that you want to use this stuff with. One of the benefits of t-glase too is if you need something food grade, t-glase is FDA certified to be food safe for storage containers or to have contact with food. So I have a particular client that I've been doing work for, and they've been requesting FDA approved material for food safe, and t-glase fits the profile. And the other great part is you can make it translucent using that XTC 3D. So XTC 3D obviously is not certified food. At least I'm not aware of it, and I'm not aware if it is. So, but it has some other. There's also some great tips in the article. If you scroll down a bit, it kind of shows what could be going on if you're not getting those print results that you want, and you're not getting clear like you want it to be. It might be that your standard layers or your layers are too squashed. Looks like I might have.
Now, when I was working with t-glase way back when, one of the things that was always important is that you had to modify the, you had to use a larger nozzle size. Is that still the case? And what they did if you didn't have a larger nozzle is that you had to make some changes within your program itself.
Yeah, I'm not too sure because I haven't really been printing with it all that long. All I know is that it prints really, really good for. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, my video seems to have cut out.
Yep,
So
and you're frozen, but your voice is still going. So
okay, perfect. Yeah, so so far my prints with it, I've been doing some experiment prints with it over the last couple weeks now, and it's just a really great material to work with. And our colleague over at naturalnews.com, who has a new product that's a gardening system, Mike Adams. He's been really recommending. He's been touting it. It's food grade, but you can also get t-glase to go watertight in some instances. So it is more water.
Hello? Looks like we lost Chris. So
Yep.
I'll continue with it. I've used the stuff before, and I felt it was a little difficult to work with. We've also had Brian on, and they make some material very similar to this, and I can't recall it, and Chris would be able to tell me, but we've had them on before. So the t-glase is actually, or this type of material, is made by more than one company, and as they're showing here, it's a two-part epoxy. I have worked with it. Actually, I really like it. I use it to coat my prints from Shapeways done with the gypsum material, and I think, in fact, I will bring one up here. It actually, in my opinion, creates a more vibrancy. It's a little glossy, so you may have to use a matte material on top of it, but I really like it. Chris, are you back with us?
I'm back. I'm sorry about that.
No, I was just mentioning t-glase or the type of material. If it's a, do I want to say a PET material, is also done by another company. Remember, Brian, what company was that that they were with?
Made Solid has a
Made
PET,
Solid.
yeah,
Yeah,
PET, which is what the water bottles are made out of. Most water
right.
bottles are PET. Really strong material as well. So it's got
Yes.
some. It's kind of a PET is a great material for certain applications because, well, first off, it's highly recyclable for the most part, or it can be made from recycled materials. So some consider it eco-friendly, if you will. And but another big one is that it's got kind of an elongation somewhere in between nylon and ABS, so it's kind of a little bit stretchy, a little less brittle, so it can be a little bit stronger in some applications than ABS.
Yeah, in fact, go ahead and continue. I've got a print here that I can show. Hang on.
Yeah, but so far, T-Glaze for me, I highly recommend it for people that are kind of looking to branch out and play with other materials. I would even recommend it before going straight to nylon, just because it's super. I mean, I think it's almost easier than ABS to print myself so far with my test prints. So I've had really good luck with T-Glaze. It's got a really nice finish to it, and the parts come off. They just look really clean.
Yeah, this is the one that I did with the Made Solids PET material. So yes, it does have a nice luster to it. This is their, what would you call it, their crimson material.
It looks almost ruby-like.
Exactly, and it really looks good under light. So if you're looking at other materials to work with, as Chris alluded to, it is FDA approved, so you can use it for things like that.
And if you did that with a zero infill, almost like a hollowed out shell, and you just printed a couple perimeters, like 2 or 3 perimeters, and you spaced them far enough, you could probably make that model extremely translucent. So
correct. Yeah, this one's dense. I
so
think this was like, actually, it may even be close to 100%. I wanted it to be durable, but the other thing is it's very light. It seems
right.
lighter than the ABS. So it's good. There are some things, at least from my perspective, I did that one on the MakerBot Replicator 2 with the heated bed retrofit that I put in there. And the thing is that I put it with a different power supply, and for whatever reason, I thought, well, I could just turn it off. It popped off the bed, and I was left with, if you remember that one day, a big mess. So I didn't do that the second time, so the results were really nice on that. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Print Whisperer. I'm going to finish up here with a couple more items, and then we will be done for today. As you remember, we talked about a company called Bezel. They are at 128,000 of their 200,000 goal. They're the ones that create this little nice little $50 or 40 something dollar, $49 little unit you can pop on an iOS or an Android device. They actually now have some scans that you can go out and look at on their website. Here they are. So if you want to scrutinize the capability of it, I don't know, again, how long it takes to scan, but the scans actually look pretty good. So if you're in the market for a low-cost something or other, and you can actually make it bigger, and this is also their site called Cashew that does something very similar to the Sketchfab. But there you go, and that isn't the best quality. I'll bump it up. So the textures actually look okay. I'm very
For a
surprised
$49 thing,
for
yeah.
$49. And again, I don't know how long, but here you go. This is about what you can get on earlier versions of
Giving
the
Fuel
structure
3D a run for their money.
yeah, well, give everybody a run for their money. Textures again are somewhat muted, but and you can't show it here. They do have a feature to go to wireframe, but you actually have to bump it. Let me go to
Well,
the
and again, the
lowest quality.
product is still in beta, you know what I mean, or in alpha.
Oh yeah,
So, it's
nothing
they've
against
got. I
them.
mean, yeah.
So help them out. Let's see this thing get funded.
They
There you
got
go.
26 days to go, and
Yep.
they're over halfway there. So, hopefully, fingers crossed that they're going to make their goal and
Yep.
get out there and back them.
So I've asked Drew to get me one as soon as possible so I can put it through its ropes and talk about it a little bit more. But again, Bevel, if you want to support a low-cost device that looks like it's got a lot of potential, head out there and buy one. Actually, a lot of their low ones are out, but you can get 2-for-1 type specials, get a discount there, but they've got all kinds of things, plus swag if you want to buy in and invest, like a lot of Kickstarters. But come on, let's make this thing happen. I think it's kind of cool. And there you go. There's a little laser line scan going through. So again, remember that they created a desktop version of a laser line scanner. So that's
the better scan that you're showing there.
I'm sorry?
That's a better scan that you're showing there.
Actually, that one's available to scrutinize as well. So,
yeah, she's a looker.
Okay. Keep your
if that doesn't get people motivated, come on.
Who knows what will. All right, so there's that. As I mentioned, products of the week, 2 of them. And one that I'll talk more about in the upcoming show at 12:30. But the other is, hey, guess what? Windows 10, dun, da, da, it's out. I upgraded one of my machines to it flawlessly. Took about 20-30 minutes. Worked well. So if you're a Windows user, I recommend Windows 10. I've been using it for some time on the preview, and I actually use Windows 8 with a couple of tools to make it more like Windows 7. So I'm very happy with it. There are some performance gains if you're coming from 7 or even Vista. But there are some performance gains in going to Windows 10. I highly recommend it. And I don't have the link there. If you have more than one machine and you don't want to tie up your internet because it's a 3 gig, what do you want to call it, file, you can download the ISO separately and install it manually on each of your machines. So I'd recommend doing that. That's something that I'm going to be doing. Also, if you didn't go into the preview with this, you'll have to kind of wait. They've staggered out, which is good because I think it kind of overloaded the internet. I noticed I was having some problems on the day that this was released, trying to do some things with the Shriners group. So I'm going to blame it on them. But they are staggering it. So if you weren't part of the preview testing, more than likely, if you clicked on that little icon that shows up at the bottom of your screen, you're going to have to wait for it. Or, like I said, you can go out there and download it separately if you can't wait. The other thing that came out, at least for me, you see I'm going from one camp to the other, is the iPod Touch. 6G, 6th generation. Actually got one here. And I've been putting it through its test. It is essentially an iPhone 6 without the cost. It's got a smaller screen, but I have found that it actually is a little bit more mobile, but works identical to the iPhone 6. Actually can do my VR demos and actually uses the BioStep Capture program flawlessly. It's a little slightly underclocked over the iPhone 6, but you don't even notice it. And with some of the improvements, since it's a 64-bit, it can use metal. I do think that both of those applications are going to see performance gains because of it. So if you're looking at supporting the structure sensor but can't afford an iPhone, this might be something to look at. 16 gigs only $199. You can get all the way up to 128 gig. So if you've got a large music collection or even video collection or wanting to play those huge games, this might be the direction to go to. So I think this is going to be
a good option for a lot of people that have kids too. Is like instead of buying them a phone, it's like, well, I don't know, because like I don't know, the phone plans nowadays, there's so much commitment. They want you to up your contract, and it's like $800 for a new iPhone now if you don't buy
if you buy it off contract, it's $800, so this could be an easy alternative. Plus, you can always use it with Skype or other services, so you're not tied in. The only thing is it doesn't provide a cell radio, so you're stuck with Wi-Fi. But it's great for kids or for people like myself who just need a front end for their scanner at a low cost. This might be great for hospitals or something like that who might be buying into it, Shriners, as a tool to do scanning at a lower cost. Okay, on that, I think I'm done. Windows 10, I think I'm done. Chris, how about you? Are you done? James?
I'm done.
Anything else?
Done.
Okay. Great guest today. Mike, really
wonderful.
Appreciate you lining that up. I mean, these guys are just powerhouses. And Jill, who's still with us, thank you so much to our guests that joined us today. It was an absolute pleasure to get to spend some time with you and pick your brains about your projects. And James, always a pleasure having you ask some great questions. And can't wait to hear about your experience with nylon next week.
You will.
All right. So, and of course, thanks to our listeners who make this all possible. And we will definitely see you next week on another episode of All Things 3D.
Bye.